It was my sister's 25th birthday dinner, and I'd flown in from Chicago specially for the occasion. I'd even brought Kate an expensive pair of earrings from the boutique near my downtown apartment, a peace offering of sorts. Our relationship had been strained ever since I'd landed my dream job as regional director 3 years earlier, while she was still living in our hometown, working part-time at the mall and taking community college classes. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Everyone, I have an announcement, Kate said, her face flushed with excitement as she clinked her fork against her wine glass. My parents beamed at her from across the table. Jordan and I are moving in together. The table erupted in cheers while I forced a smile. Jordan Thompson had been dating my sister for 8 months. He was undeniably charming, tall with an easy laugh and the kind of confidence that filled a room. But something about him had always felt off to me. "That's wonderful, sweetheart," my mom gushed, reaching across to squeeze Kate's hand. "Jordan is such a catch. So ambitious." I nearly choked. On my water? Jordan had told my family he was some kind of business consultant, but his stories about work were always vague, full of buzzwords but light on details. When I'd tried asking specific questions about his clients or projects, he'd smoothly change the subject. "Actually," Jordan said, wrapping his arm around Kate's shoulders, "I've been saving up for something special." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. My stomach dropped as gasps filled the dining room. It wasn't an engagement ring, not yet, but a promise ring with a diamond much larger than anything a legitimate business consultant at his supposed level could afford. My sister squealed, my mother cried, and my father clapped Jordan on the back with pride. "To the newest member of our family," my dad toasted, raising his glass while staring pointedly at me. The implication was clear. At 32, I was still single, married to my career instead of finding what really matters. I should have kept my mouth shut. I really should have. But watching my family fawn over this man who was clearly hiding something made something snap inside me. "Don't you think it's a bit soon?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. "You've only been dating for 8 months. And Jordan, didn't you mention you might be relocating for work soon?" He hadn't mentioned any such thing, but I watched his face carefully. A flicker of something, annoyance, panic, crossed his features before his easy smile returned. "Plans change when you meet the right person," he replied smoothly, kissing Kate's temple. "Besides, I've been offered a great opportunity right here in town." My mother shot me a warning look. "Emma, can't you just be happy for your sister for once?" "I am happy for her," I insisted. "I just want to make sure this is the right move." Kate's eyes narrowed. "Just because your relationships never work out doesn't mean you should try to ruin mine." The table fell silent. That was a low blow. My last relationship had ended because my ex couldn't handle my promotion requiring occasional travel. But I'd learned long ago that in my family, Kate was the fragile one who needed protecting, especially from her overly critical older sister. "I'm just concerned," I said, trying to soften my approach. "Jordan, you've never actually explained what your consulting firm does or who your clients are. It just seems a bit mysterious." Jordan's jaw tightened. "Not everyone needs to broadcast. They're professional achievements, Emma. Some of us prefer to keep work and personal life separate." "Emma," my father's voice carried that familiar edge of disappointment. "That's enough. This is your sister's celebration." I looked around the table. My sister's hurt expression, my mother's embarrassment, my father's anger, and Jordan's calculating eyes. I'd crossed a line in their eyes, but my instincts were screaming that something wasn't right with this man. "I think I should go," I said quietly, placing my napkin on the table and standing up. "Congratulations, Kate. I hope I'm wrong. No one tried to stop me as I left. The next morning, my mother called. I hoped for an olive branch, some acknowledgement that my concerns, even if unwelcome, came from a place of love. Instead, she delivered an ultimatum. Your father and I have discussed it, and we think it's best if you give Kate and Jordan some space. If you can't support your sister's happiness, then perhaps you shouldn't come around for a while. Mom, you can't be serious. I'm just worried about her. You're jealous, Emma. You always have been. Kate's finally found something wonderful, and you can't stand it. The accusation stung because it was so far from the truth. I'd spent my entire life looking out for my little sister. I'd helped pay for her community college classes when my parents couldn't afford it. I'd sent her money for rent when she was short. I'd always had her back. That's not fair, I said, my voice breaking. Life isn't fair, my mother replied coldly. You made your choice last night. Now we're making ours. The call ended, and just like that, I was cut off from my family. No more Sunday calls, no invitations to dinners or holidays. My texts to Kate went unanswered. My parents returned my Christmas gifts unopened. It was as if I'd never existed. I threw myself into work, taking on extra projects and longer hours. My Chicago apartment began to feel less like a symbol of my success and more like a beautiful, empty cage. 6 months passed in a blur of meetings, reports, and lonely takeout dinners. Then came the email from HR about new regional hires needing orientation. As regional director, I was responsible for welcoming new management track employees. I skimmed the list of names without much interest until one jumped out at me, Jordan Thompson. It had to be a coincidence. Thompson wasn't an uncommon name. But when I walked into the orientation room the following Monday and saw my sister's boyfriend sitting among the new hires, I nearly dropped my coffee. He looked different in a proper suit. His hair more controlled, his posture stiffer. His easy smile vanished the moment he saw me, replaced by wide-eyed panic. Good morning, everyone, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. I'm Emma Callahan, Regional Director for the Midwest Division. Welcome to your first day. Jordan's eyes remained fixed on the table in front of him. The other new employees introduced themselves enthusiastically, but when Jordan's turn came, his voice was barely audible. Jordan Thompson, new account manager, transferred from the Minneapolis office. Minneapolis? According to my family, he'd been working locally as a consultant. I checked my notes again. The transfer request had come through 3 months ago, right? Around the time he'd given Kate that promise ring. I maintained my professional composure throughout the orientation, explaining company policies, benefits, and expectations. But inside, my mind was racing. Jordan had lied to my sister and my family about his job. He'd claimed to be an established business consultant when in reality, he was just now starting an entry-level management position at my company. After dismissing the group for lunch, I asked Jordan to stay behind. Mr. Thompson, could I have a word with you in my office? He followed me silently. His confident demeanor completely evaporated. Once the door closed behind us, I took a seat behind my desk and gestured for him to sit across from me. So, I said, calmly, business consulting? Jordan loosened his tie slightly. Emma, I can explain. I'm listening. I never told Kate I was a successful consultant. She just assumed, and I didn't correct her. And the promise ring? The one that probably cost several months' salary for someone at your actual pay grade? He had the decency to look ashamed. I wanted to impress her. And your parents. By lying? By pretending to be something you're not? You don't understand what it's like, he said, an edge creeping into his voice. Kate talks about you constantly. Her perfect sister with the perfect career and the perfect life. I needed to measure up somehow. The revelation stunned me. Kate talked about me? The same sister who hadn't responded to a single message in 6 months? That doesn't excuse lying, I said firmly, or turning my family against me when I questioned those lies. Jordan's expression hardened. I didn't tell them to cut you off. That was their decision. After you painted me as the jealous sister trying to ruin Kate's happiness. He didn't deny it. I leaned forward. Here's what's going to happen, Jordan. You're going to tell Kate and my parents the truth. All of it. Today. And if I don't? He challenged, some of his old confidence returning. I smiled thinly. Then I'll be forced to look very closely at your employment application. I wonder if there are other discrepancies I might find there? Jordan's face paled. We both knew what fabrications on an employment application could mean. You're blackmailing me. I'm encouraging honesty, I corrected. Something you should have valued from the beginning. He stood up abruptly. You know, Kate was right about you. You can't stand to see her happy. The accusation hit its mark, making me question my motives for a brief moment. Was I doing this for Kate's protection? Or was there some small hurt part of me that wanted revenge for being cast aside? This isn't about happiness, Jordan. It's about truth. Kate deserves that, even if it hurts initially. He stormed out without another word, and I was left wondering if I'd just made things infinitely worse. That evening, I sat in my apartment staring at my phone, waiting for the fallout. Would Kate call to scream at me? Would my parents solidify their decision to cut me out permanently? Had I just destroyed any chance of reconciliation with my family? Around 9, my phone finally rang. It was Kate. With a deep breath, I answered. Emma. Her voice was small, fragile in a way I hadn't heard since we were children. Is it true? Does Jordan work for you? Yes, I said simply. He started today as an account manager, entry-level position. She was quiet for so long I thought she might have hung up. Then I heard a muffled sob. He told us everything, she finally managed. About lying about his job, about making up those stories about big clients. He even admitted the ring was bought with a high-interest loan he can barely afford. My heart ached for her. I'm so sorry, Kate. No, I'm sorry, she said, surprising me. I believed him when he said you were just jealous and trying to control my life. I let him come between us. Relief and sadness flooded through me simultaneously. It's not entirely his fault. Our relationship was already strained. Because I resented your success, Kate admitted. It was easier to believe you were the villain than admit I was envious of everything you've accomplished. Tears sprung to my eyes. This level of honesty between us was unprecedented. I've always been proud of you, Kate. Always. Mom and Dad want to talk to you, she said after a moment. They're really ashamed of how they treated you. Later that night, the call with my parents was painful but necessary. There were tears, apologies, and promises to do better. The wall between us hadn't come down completely, but there were cracks in the foundation. As for Jordan, he still had his job, for now. I wasn't vindictive enough to fire him based on personal issues, but he would need to prove himself professionally. Kate had removed his promise ring and asked for space to think about their future. I booked a flight home for the following weekend. 6 months of estrangement couldn't be fixed overnight, but it was a start. Family relationships, I was learning, were like the companies I managed. They required honesty, communication, and sometimes difficult restructuring to succeed. What I didn't know then was that Jordan's lies ran deeper than any of us suspected, and the weekend reunion with my family would uncover secrets that would change all of our lives forever. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. My flight landed Friday evening. Kate picked me up from the airport, and the car ride to our parents' house was filled with awkward small talk, conversations about the weather and her classes, carefully avoiding any mention of Jordan or the past 6 months of silence. When we pulled into the driveway, my mother was waiting on the porch. The sight of her, looking somehow older than when I'd last seen her, made my chest tighten. She hurried down the steps as I got out of the car, and then her arms were around me, holding me so tightly I could barely breathe. "Emma," she whispered, her voice cracking. "My girl." Dad joined us on the driveway, his eyes red-rimmed, though he'd deny crying if asked. He pulled me into a bear hug that smelled of the same aftershave he'd worn my entire life. "I'm sorry," he said gruffly. "I should have trusted your judgment." Dinner that night was a strange mix of emotional reconciliation and tiptoeing around still tender wounds. My mother had prepared all my favorites: pot roast, garlic mashed potatoes, homemade rolls, as though good food could somehow erase the months of silence. "So," I said carefully, after we'd exhausted all safe topics of conversation, "what happened with Jordan after he told you the truth?" My parents exchanged uncomfortable glances. Kate stared down at her plate. "He's still living with Kate," my mother finally said. "We told him he wasn't welcome at family gatherings until he proved himself trustworthy, but..." "But what?" I prompted. Kate looked up, her expression defiant yet vulnerable. "But I still love him, Emma. People make mistakes." I bit back my initial response. That systematic deception wasn't a simple mistake, and tried to consider her perspective. "What has he said about why he lied?" "He was trying to be the man he thought I deserved," Kate said quietly. "He knew how successful you were, how proud Mom and Dad are of you. He wanted them to be proud of him too." My father cleared his throat. "We may have contributed to that pressure. We've been comparing people to you for a long time, Emma. It wasn't fair to Kate or anyone in her life." The admission stunned me. I'd always thought my parents valued Kate's artistic sensibilities and free spirit over my more structured approach to life. "I had no idea," I said honestly. "Of course you didn't," my mother sighed. "We never told you how much we bragged about your accomplishments to our friends, how we'd say things like, 'Emma got another promotion,' or 'Emma's company values her so much.' We put Kate in your shadow without realizing it." Kate reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "It's not your fault. And it doesn't excuse what Jordan did. I'm just trying to understand it." I squeezed back, grateful for her maturity. "What will he do now? About work, I mean." "He's determined to prove himself at your company," Kate said. "He says he wants to earn his position legitimately this time." I nodded, unsure how to feel about that. Jordan would be under my management for the foreseeable future, creating a complicated dynamic I wasn't sure how to navigate. The next morning, I woke early and found my father sitting alone on the back porch, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise, a ritual I remembered from childhood. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked as I joined him with my own cup. "Too many thoughts," I admitted. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. "I keep thinking about how quickly we turned on you. Our own daughter. All because a man we barely knew made us feel good about ourselves." The raw honesty took me by surprise. My father had never been one to admit vulnerability. "What do you mean?" He sighed, looking out at the pink-streaked sky. Jordan knew exactly what to say to make us feel important. He asked my advice on investments, praised my work around the house, made your mother feel like her opinions on his career mattered. He shook his head. "We were so flattered that this successful young man valued us that we couldn't see what was right in front of us." "You wanted to believe in him," I said gently. "We chose him over you," my father's voice broke. "How can you ever forgive that?" I set my coffee down and took his weathered hand in mine. "We're family, Dad. It's what we do." Later that day, Kate took me to lunch at a new cafe downtown. Without our parents present, she spoke more freely about her relationship with Jordan. He's not a bad person, Em, she insisted. He just got caught in his own lies and didn't know how to get out. Has he always been deceptive? I asked carefully. Even from the beginning? Kate stirred her iced tea, thoughtful. Looking back, there were signs. He would get phone calls he wouldn't take around me. His work stories changed depending on who he was talking to. She looked up at me, eyes shining with unshed tears. I should have seen it. We all see what we want to see sometimes, I offered. That's why I'm staying for now at least, she said. I need to see who he really is, not who I wanted him to be or who he pretended to be. I need the truth. I admired her courage, but worried about the pain that might lie ahead. Just promise me you'll protect yourself, emotionally and financially. She nodded. I already moved my savings to a separate account, and I'm seeing a therapist. That night, as we sat together in the living room looking through old photo albums, my phone rang. It was Marcus, one of the HR managers from work. Emma, I'm sorry to bother you on your weekend off, but there's something you need to know about Jordan Thompson. My stomach dropped. What is it? Standard background check finally came back. There's a problem with his employment history. The company in Minneapolis he claimed to work for, they have no record of him ever being employed there. I closed my eyes, feeling my family's curious gazes on me. That's concerning. Anything else? Yes, Marcus's voice was grim. He has a history of this. 3 other companies reported him for falsifying credentials. He never stays long, usually just long enough to access sensitive client information. Cold dread washed over me. Client information? What kind? Financial records, mostly. There's a pattern of identity theft following his employment at each company. Nothing that could be directly traced to him, but the coincidence is troubling. I thanked Marcus and promised to deal with it Monday morning. When I hung up, 3 worried faces were watching me. What's wrong? Kate asked, her voice small. I couldn't lie to her, not now when truth was finally bringing us back together. Jordan's background check revealed some concerns. He didn't work at the Minneapolis office, like he claimed. In fact, there's a pattern of similar behavior at other companies. The color drained from Kate's face. What kind of pattern? I hesitated, not wanting to devastate her but knowing she deserved the full truth. Identity theft, Kate. Financial. Fraud, my mother gasped. My father stood up abruptly, pacing the room. We need to check our accounts, he said urgently. Credit cards, bank statements, everything. Kate sat perfectly still, as if moving might shatter her completely. He had access to all my passwords, she whispered. He said it was easier if we shared everything since we were building a life together. The next few hours were a flurry of phone calls to banks and credit card companies. The picture that emerged was worse than any of us had imagined. Jordan had opened 3 credit cards in Kate's name. He'd taken out a personal loan using my father's Social Security number. He'd even attempted to access my mother's retirement account. My sister sat on the couch, shell-shocked, as the evidence of betrayal piled higher. I sat beside her, holding her hand as tears silently streamed down her face. I'm so stupid, she kept whispering. No, I said firmly. You trusted someone who worked very hard to appear trustworthy. That doesn't make you stupid. Around midnight, my father got a call from their neighbor. Jordan had shown up at the house looking for Kate, clearly intoxicated and causing a scene. When told she wasn't there, he'd become belligerent, shouting that she had ruined everything. He knows, Kate said, her voice hollow. He knows we've discovered what he did. I called the police while my father went to secure the house. Officers arrived within minutes, but Jordan had already fled. They took our statements and promised to look for him, but the damage was done. My sister's heart was broken. My parents' finances were in jeopardy, and somewhere out there was a man who had nearly destroyed our family. Sunday morning, we began the process of damage control. I helped Kate file an identity theft report. My parents froze their credit and began disputing fraudulent charges. The house felt like a fortress under siege. Curtains drawn, doors double-locked, jumping at every sound. I should have trusted you from the beginning, Kate said as we sat at the kitchen table sorting through financial paperwork. You saw through him immediately. Not completely, I admitted. I knew something was off, but I never imagined this. My mother brought us fresh coffee, her hands shaking slightly. What happens now? With Jordan, I mean. The company will terminate him, of course, I said. And with the police reports we've filed, there will likely be charges. But will they catch him? My father asked from his position by the window, where he'd been keeping watch all morning. Before I could answer, my phone rang again. It was Marcus. Emma, Jordan Thompson cleared out his desk last night. Security footage shows him entering the building at 2 a.m. using his access card. He downloaded files from the client database before leaving. My blood ran cold. Which clients? High net worth individuals, people with substantial investments. Marcus paused. Your name was on the search list, Emma. He was looking for your personal information, too. I thought of my apartment in Chicago, sitting empty and vulnerable. My financial records at the office. The pieces of my life that Jordan might now have access to. When I hung up, my family was watching me with worried expressions. He's gone, I told them. And he took sensitive information with him, including mine. Kate buried her face in her hands. This is all my fault. No, my father said firmly, joining us at the table. This is on him, and on us, for not listening to Emma when she tried to warn us. My mother squeezed my shoulder. We're going to fix this. Together this time. As I looked around at my family, bruised but united, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Belonging. The road ahead would be difficult. There would be police reports, credit monitoring, possibly even court appearances if Jordan was caught. But we would face it as a family. I'm extending my stay, I decided. Work can manage without me for a few more days. You all shouldn't have to deal with this alone. The relief on their faces confirmed I'd made the right choice. That night, as Kate and I sat on the porch swing like we used to as girls, she asked the question that had been hanging between us all weekend. How did you know? From the very beginning, what made you suspicious of him? I thought carefully before answering. It wasn't any one thing. It was the inconsistencies in his stories, the way he deflected direct questions. But mostly, it was that he seemed too perfect, too calculated in how he presented himself to each of us. With Dad, he was the ambitious young businessman. With Mom, he was the devoted family man. With you, he was whatever you needed him to be. Kate nodded slowly. And with you? With me, he didn't bother pretending. He knew I wasn't buying it. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and we sat in comfortable silence watching the stars emerge. I missed you, she finally said. Even when I was angry, even when I believed the worst about you, I missed my big sister. I wrapped my arm around her shoulders. I missed you too. Every single day. The future remained uncertain. Jordan was still out there somewhere, armed with our personal information and a grudge. My parents' finances were in disarray. Kate's heart was shattered. And I would eventually have to return to Chicago, to the job that had both separated me from and ultimately reconnected me to my family. But for now, sitting on the porch with my sister, I felt a strange sense of peace. The walls that had divided us had crumbled, revealing the foundation of love that had always been there, waiting to be rebuilt upon. Sometimes it takes a crisis to remind us what truly matters. As the night grew cooler, Kate and I went inside to join our parents, closing the door securely behind us. Whatever came next, we would face it together. Up next, you've got two more. Stay Standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us. Monday morning arrived with a harsh reality check. I'd extended my stay at my parents' house, but the corporate world waited for no one. I set up a makeshift office in my childhood bedroom, the walls still adorned with faded debate team ribbons and college pennants, remnants of the ambitious teenager I once was. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. My laptop screen filled with urgent emails about Jordan. Company security had discovered he'd accessed not just client financial information, but also proprietary trading algorithms worth millions. The FBI had been notified. This wasn't just identity theft anymore, it was corporate espionage. I joined the emergency conference call, struggling to maintain my professional composure while sitting on my twin bed with stuffed animals still perched on the bookshelf behind me. "Emma, we need you back in Chicago immediately," my CEO said, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. "The damage assessment team needs your input on which client accounts might be compromised." "I understand, but my family's personal information was also stolen," I explained. "My sister is his girlfriend. Well, ex-girlfriend now. We're still dealing with the fallout here." A heavy silence followed. "You never disclosed this conflict of interest," the legal counsel interjected. "That your sister was romantically involved with a new hire under your supervision." Cold dread pooled in my stomach. "I didn't know until orientation day. I confronted him immediately." "But you didn't report it to HR," she pressed. I hadn't. Between the family reconciliation and the shock of discovering Jordan's true nature, I'd failed to follow proper protocol. A rookie mistake that could now cost me everything I'd worked for. "I'll be on the first flight back," I conceded, ending the call. Downstairs, I found Kate at the kitchen table, her eyes red-rimmed from another sleepless night. She looked up as I entered, immediately reading the tension in my shoulders. "What's wrong?" she asked. I sank into the chair across from her. "Jordan took more than personal information. He stole proprietary company data. The FBI is involved now." Kate's face crumpled. "He used me to get to you, to get to your company." The realization hit me like a physical blow. Of course, Jordan hadn't picked Kate at random. He'd targeted her because of me, because of my position. All those questions about my work that I'd attributed to polite interest. The coincidental meeting with my sister at a coffee shop near my company's satellite office. None of it was chance. "We don't know that for certain," I said, but the pieces were fitting together too perfectly to deny. My parents joined us, my father carrying a stack of mail. His expression was grim as he slid an envelope across the table to me. "This came for you. Forwarded from your Chicago address." The return address showed only a P.O. box in Minneapolis. With trembling fingers, I opened it, unfolding a single sheet of paper. "Emma, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. I want you to know that using Kate was never part of the original plan. Meeting her was a fortunate coincidence that provided unexpected access. Don't waste resources looking for me. This identity is already abandoned. Business is business. Nothing personal." Not Jordan. I passed the letter to Kate, watching as she read the words that reduced her to nothing more than collateral damage in whatever scheme Jordan, or whatever his real name was, had been running. "He was never real," she whispered. My father's fist came down hard on the table, rattling our coffee cups. "I'll kill him if I ever see him again." "Dad," I said gently, "this isn't some small-time con artist. This is organized, professional." I pointed to the letter. "He's done this before, and he's not working alone." My mother, who'd been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke. "The vacation photos." When we all looked at her blankly, she continued, "Remember that weekend trip Kate and Jordan took to Lake Geneva? He insisted on taking photos of all of you in front of the cabin with the street number clearly visible." Kate's eyes widened, and he was always offering to get the mail, to take packages inside. He was casing our house, my father realized, learning our routines. The violation felt deeply personal, despite Jordan's claim to the contrary. He hadn't just stolen our information. He'd stolen our trust, our family harmony, our sense of safety. My phone rang. The Chicago office again. "I have to go back," I told my family after ending the call. "They need me for the investigation." Kate grabbed my wrist. "You can't leave now. What if he comes back?" "He won't," I said with certainty. "He has what he wanted. Coming back would only create unnecessary risk." "Then I'm coming with you," she decided, her chin lifting with familiar stubbornness. "I'm part of this too." I hesitated, torn between professional boundaries and family loyalty. But Kate was right. She was central to understanding Jordan's operation. And truthfully, I didn't want to leave her behind, not when we'd just found our way back to each other. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. The Chicago skyline welcomed us with its familiar silhouette against the evening sky. My apartment felt strangely foreign after the warmth of my parents' home. I'd arranged for a security specialist to sweep it for surveillance. Devices? Another corporate expense I'd have to justify later. "All clear," the technician confirmed after 2 hours of meticulous checking. "But I'd recommend changing your locks and security codes anyway." After he left, Kate wandered my apartment like an explorer in unfamiliar territory. "I've never actually been here before," she realized aloud. 3 years and I never once visited you." The observation hung between us, a testament to how completely our relationship had fractured. "It's just a place," I said, downplaying the ache her words produced. "Not a home." "But it's beautiful," she insisted, running her fingers along my sleek kitchen countertop. "It's so you. Elegant but practical." I smiled despite the circumstances. "You can take the guest room. We should both get some sleep before tomorrow's marathon of meetings." Sleep proved elusive. Around 3 a.m., I found Kate in my living room, illuminated only by the city lights filtering through the windows. "Couldn't sleep either?" I asked, joining her on the sofa. She shook her head. "I keep thinking about all the red flags I ignored. The mysterious phone calls, how he never wanted me to tag him in social media posts, how he'd get tense whenever your name came up." I handed her the throw blanket from the back of the couch. "You weren't the only one fooled. He deceived an entire corporate HR department." "But they weren't sleeping with him," she said bluntly. "They weren't planning a future with him." I had no response to that. The depth of her betrayal was something I couldn't fully comprehend. "What do you think he's doing right now?" she asked, her voice small in the darkness. "Selling our information to the highest bidder," I replied honestly, "or using it himself to access accounts before they can be locked down." "Will they catch him?" I sighed. "People like Jordan, or whatever his name is, they're professionals. They know how to disappear, how to become someone else. But the FBI has resources we don't." Morning brought a flurry of activity. Kate and I arrived at my office building to find it swarming with security personnel and dark-suited federal agents. I was immediately whisked into a conference room where my executive team sat alongside investigators. Ms. Callahan, a severe-looking woman, introduced herself as Special Agent Rao. "We need to understand exactly when you became aware of Jordan Thompson's connection to your sister." For the next 3 hours, I recounted every interaction, every conversation, every detail about Jordan that might help their investigation. Kate was interviewed separately, a process that left her emotionally drained when we finally reconnected. In the hallway, They think I might have been involved, she whispered, her face pale. They kept asking if I helped him access your building after hours. I squeezed her hand. Standard procedure. They have to rule out all possibilities. My CEO beckoned me into his office, his expression unreadable. I prepared myself for suspension, possibly termination. The conflict of interest combined with my failure to report it provided ample grounds for dismissal. Emma, he began, gesturing for me to sit. The security audit shows Jordan accessed our systems using your credentials. I froze. That's impossible. I never shared my passwords. Not deliberately, perhaps. But the keylogger they found on your laptop suggests otherwise. Horror washed over me as I realized the implications. He must have installed it when he was at my parents' house. He had access to my work bag that first night. My CEO nodded grimly. Which means this was premeditated. He targeted your sister specifically to get to you, and through you, to us. The knowledge that I'd been the ultimate target all along sent a chill through me. Jordan hadn't just used Kate, he'd used her to get to me. Every family dinner, every casual conversation where my work came up, had been an information-gathering opportunity. What happens now? I asked. We've contained the data breach, but the damage to client trust will be significant. As for your position. He paused, studying me. The board wants someone to take responsibility. My heart sank. 5 years of dedicated work, of sacrificing personal relationships for professional advancement, all undone by a con man's elaborate scheme. I understand, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I'll clear out my office. To my surprise, he shook his head. Actually, we need you more than ever. You know which clients were targeted and have the relationships to reassure them. But there will be conditions, strict oversight, probationary period. Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by determination. I won't let you down. There's something else, he added. Agent Rao believes Jordan Thompson is connected to a network of corporate spies that's been targeting financial institutions across the Midwest. Your sister's testimony could be crucial to building their case. When I found Kate in the building's cafe, she was staring blankly into a cup of untouched coffee. I slid into the seat across from her. They want me to help identify him, she said before I could speak. Photos of known associates, voice recordings. They think he might approach me again. Alarm shot through me. That's too dangerous. It's the only way I can make this right, she insisted. I brought him into our lives. I need to help get him out. I recognized the stubborn set of her jaw, the same expression she'd worn as a child when determined to prove herself. But this wasn't a school project or sports competition. This was a dangerous criminal organization. Kate, these people aren't amateurs. If they suspect you're working with the FBI, then I'll be careful, she interrupted. Emma, for once in my life, let me be the strong one. Let me protect our family. The role reversal was jarring. For as long as I could remember, I'd been the protector, the responsible one. Now Kate was volunteering to put herself at risk to fix a situation she felt responsible for creating. We'll talk to Agent Rao together, I finally conceded. But we're setting boundaries, clear safety protocols. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of security briefings, client damage control, and sleepless nights. Kate moved in with me temporarily, both for safety and because returning to the apartment she'd shared with Jordan felt impossible. We fell into an unexpectedly comfortable routine. Morning coffee shared in companionable silence, takeout dinners on my balcony, late-night conversations that healed old wounds. I never hated you, Kate confessed one evening as we sat watching the city lights. I hated that everything seemed so easy for you. I laughed, the sound surprisingly bitter. Easy? Kate, I work 70-hour weeks. I haven't had a relationship last longer than 6 months since college. My apartment is beautiful but empty. She studied me with new eyes. I never saw it that way. From the outside, your life looked perfect. No one's life is perfect, I said softly. We just show different parts to different people. The FBI's investigation progressed slowly. Jordan's trail had gone cold after he'd used a stolen credit card at a bus station in Detroit. His real identity remained a mystery, though they'd connected him to at least 3 other corporate espionage cases under different names. Then came the text. Kate's phone chimed one morning as we were preparing to leave for another FBI interview. She glanced down, then froze, her face draining of color. "It's him," she whispered, handing me the phone. The message was simple. "Miss me?" Agent Rao was at my apartment within 20 minutes, equipping Kate's phone with tracking software. "If he makes contact again, keep him talking. Try to arrange a meeting." "Is that safe?" I demanded. "We'll have surveillance in place," she assured us. "Your sister will never be alone." For 3 days, nothing happened. Then, as Kate and I were having dinner at a restaurant near my apartment, her phone chimed again. "You look nice tonight. Red's always been your color." Kate's head snapped up, her eyes scanning the crowded restaurant. "He's here," she hissed. "He's watching us." Agent Rao's team converged on the restaurant within minutes, but found nothing. Security footage showed no sign of Jordan. The text had been sent through an encrypted messaging service impossible to trace. "He's toying with us," I realized later that night as FBI technicians swept my apartment again. "Showing us he can get close whenever he wants." Kate's hands trembled as she made tea in my kitchen. "Maybe I should go back to Mom and Dad's. Draw him away from you and your work." "Absolutely not," I said firmly. "We're safer together." But the incident had shaken both of us. Sleep became even more elusive, every unfamiliar sound in the night a potential threat. I found myself checking the locks multiple times, installing additional security measures that my building management frowned upon. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. A routine audit of company systems revealed an active connection from an unauthorized device. Someone was still accessing our network remotely, using credentials that should have been deactivated. "It's a backdoor he installed. Our IT security," Lead explained during an emergency meeting. "But here's the thing. We can trace it while it's active." The FBI team moved quickly, tracking the connection to a high-rise apartment building in Minneapolis. Within hours, they had a search warrant. Agent Rao called me directly. We found his operations center, multiple computers, fake IDs, evidence, linking him to at least 6 other corporate breaches. But he wasn't there. "Did you get his real identity?" I asked. "Daniel Mercer," she confirmed. "Former IT security consultant with a record of minor cybercrimes. Nothing that suggested this level of sophistication." "He's not working alone," I guessed. "No," she agreed. "We think he's part of a larger network. And based on the intelligence we gathered from his computers, they're planning something bigger than identity theft or data breaches." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "Financial market manipulation, using the algorithms they stole from your company and others to create artificial market volatility they can profit from." I thought of our proprietary trading algorithms in the hands of criminals and felt physically ill. Those algorithms controlled billions in client assets, their operation so complex that even small manipulations could have catastrophic effects. That night, as Kate and I processed this new information, her phone chimed again. "Tell your sister it's nothing personal, just the cost of doing business. P.S. You might want to liquidate your investments before Friday." Friday. I immediately called Agent Rao, relaying the message and its ominous warning. "Friday," I repeated. "That's only 2 days away. Whatever they're planning, it's imminent." The FBI increased security around my apartment and office. Financial regulatory agencies were notified. Trading algorithms were taken offline for emergency review. The entire financial sector went on high alert. Thursday evening, Kate and I sat in my living room under the watchful eyes of 2 FBI agents stationed in my apartment. Outside, an unmarked surveillance van monitored the building entrance. "Do you think they'll catch him?" Kate asked quietly. "I hope so," I replied. "But even if they don't get Jordan, Daniel, they've disrupted whatever operation he was part of." My phone rang. My CEO, calling well after business hours. "Emma," his voice, was urgent. "The security team found something. The breach wasn't just about stealing our algorithms. They planted something in our systems, a trigger set to execute tomorrow at market open." I sat up straighter. "What kind of trigger?" "A cascading sell order across multiple client portfolios. If it had activated, it would have created a flash crash, tanking specific sectors while their accomplices profited from short positions. But it's been neutralized?" "Yes," he confirmed. "Thanks to your sister's warning message, we found it in time." When I relayed this to Kate, she stared at me in confusion. "But why would Jordan warn us? Why give us the chance to stop it?" It was a question that haunted me through another sleepless night. Why indeed would a professional criminal sabotage his own operation? The answer came at dawn with another text to Kate's phone. "You passed the test. Not many would choose family over fortune. I respected that about you, Emma. So consider my warning. Your severance package. Find the attached coordinates. Come alone, Kate, or the next warning won't be so generous." Beneath the message was a GPS location, an address in the industrial district outside the city. Agent Rao was adamant. "Absolutely not. We don't send civilians into potential traps." "But this might be our only chance to catch him," Kate argued. The FBI devised a compromise. Kate would agree to meet, but with a tracking device and microphone hidden in her clothing. A tactical team would be stationed nearby, ready to move in at the first sign of trouble. I fought against the plan vehemently. "It's too dangerous. He's already proven he's always one step ahead." But Kate was resolute. "For months, he used me to get close to you, to hurt the people I love. Now I can use his feelings for me, whatever they were, to stop him from hurting anyone else." The warehouse was deserted when Kate arrived, her heart pounding so loudly I could almost hear it through the surveillance audio in the FBI's mobile command center. I sat rigid, watching through body camera footage as my sister walked alone into potential danger. "Jordan?" she called out, her voice echoing in the empty space. "Daniel, I'm here." Movement in the shadows. Then a figure stepped forward. Jordan. But not as we'd known him. Gone was the polished business consultant. This man wore dark, practical clothing, his hair cut shorter, his posture more alert. "You came alone. I'm impressed." Kate stood her ground. "You said you'd hurt my family if I didn't." He circled her slowly. "The FBI is outside, of course. Probably your sister, too, listening to every word." My breath caught. He knew. "Why did you warn us about the market manipulation?" Kate asked, staying. Focused on the FBI's script. Jordan, Daniel, smiled. "Professional courtesy. Emma impressed me. Not many people see through my performances so quickly." "You used me to get to her." Kate's voice cracked slightly. "Everything between us was a lie." He stopped circling, his expression softening in a way that seemed almost genuine. "Not everything. That's why I warned you. That's why I'm here now." "To what?" "Apologize?" Kate challenged. "To offer a choice." He reached into his pocket, producing a small USB drive. "This contains evidence against my employers, names, accounts, operations, everything the FBI needs to dismantle the entire network." Kate stared at it. "Why would you betray them?" "Because they're going to eliminate me anyway," he said matter-of-factly. "I failed. In their line of work, failure isn't tolerated." Through my headset, I heard Agent Rao ordering teams into position. They were preparing to move in. "So this is self-preservation," Kate concluded. not remorse. Daniel stepped closer to her. Take it. Give it to your sister. Consider it my apology for the inconvenience. He pressed the drive into Kate's hand just as FBI agents burst through the warehouse doors. What happened next unfolded in chaotic seconds. Daniel bolting toward a back exit, agents in pursuit, Kate standing frozen in the center of it all. Single gunshot echoed through the warehouse. I tore off my headset and ran from the command vehicle toward the building, ignoring shouts to stay back. By the time I reached Kate, she was surrounded by agents. She looked up at me, face pale but unharmed. He's gone, she said simply. He got away. But he'd left behind the USB drive, a treasure trove of intelligence that would lead to dozens of arrests in the following weeks. Financial crimes spanning 3 continents, identity theft rings, corporate espionage networks, all exposed because a con man had developed genuine feelings for his mark. 6 months later, Kate and I stood on my apartment balcony, sharing a bottle of wine as the sun set over Chicago. She'd moved to the city permanently, starting fresh with a job in an art gallery and a new apartment of her own. They still haven't found him, she mused, a question in her voice. I shook my head. The FBI thinks he's overseas. New identity, new targets. Do you think he ever thinks about us? She asked. About you, I corrected gently. And yes, I do. The evidence he'd provided had protected his victims, including us, from financial ruin. It hadn't absolved him of his crimes, but it had revealed a complexity to his character that none of us had anticipated. My parents called weekly now, our relationship slowly rebuilding. They'd come to visit next month, their first trip to my Chicago home. Progress, one step at a time. You know what's strange? Kate said, refilling our glasses. In some twisted way, Jordan brought us back together. Before him, we were practically strangers. I considered this. I think we were always finding our way back to each other. He just accelerated the process. She leaned her head against my shoulder, a gesture so reminiscent of our childhood that it made my heart ache with bittersweet recognition. Next time, I bring a guy home, you have full permission to run a background check, she joked. I laughed, wrapping my arm around her shoulders. Next time, I promise to listen if you question my boss. The city lights began to twinkle as darkness fell. 2 sisters, once divided by jealousy and misunderstanding, now united by the strange, painful journey we'd traveled together. Family, I was learning, wasn't about perfection. It was about forgiveness, about seeing each other clearly, flaws and all, and choosing to love anyway. It was about finding your way back home, even when the path leads through unexpected darkness. Kate raised her glass. To new beginnings, I clinked mine against hers, and to knowing where we come from. Whatever the future held, for us, for our parents, even for the man who had nearly destroyed us, we would face it together, stronger for having been broken, wiser for having been fooled, more compassionate for having experienced betrayal, and in that knowledge was a peace I hadn't known I was seeking. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe. And turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.